Okay, so we're going to start off by just doing a little bit of a postscript from yesterday on Mishlei 23, 1 through 3. I'm not going to read through all the questions again, but this is when you sit to eat with a ruler, you should surely understand who or what is before you. You should place a knife in your throat or to your throat if you are a master of your soul, which it seems like most of the Mefarshim we did either said if you are a Baal Taiva or if you are someone who cares about your perfection. Right? Those are the two main things. Do not lust for his delicacies. It is false food or inconstant food. Okay, so we wanted to do today we saw a Meiri derech nistar, which looked intriguing. So he said, "Oh, do you want packets or should I just use the screen? Let's use the screen." Okay. Okay. So he says on the page Tuf Reish Mem Zayin, left column. Derech nistar pirshuhu razal. So Chazal in Chulin Daf Vav Amud Aleph explain this. The talmid hayoshiv lifnei rabo, with the talmid who sits in front of his rav. Valilchom, and which we translated as to eat bread. Kamo luchu lachamu balachami. It is like in Perek Tes pasuk Hey, which is when you come to eat my bread. I think that's what it is. Klomar shekasheteshiv. Lilmod lifnei hachacham. When you come to learn in front of a chacham, bin tavin eser lefnecha, understand very well what is before you. Im atam makir bo sheyodeh lahashiv. If you recognize that he is able to answer, sha'al mimenu, then you should ask him. Im la, but if not, al tavai shehu. Do not embarrass him. Elav samta safin below echa. Place a knife at your gullet. Klomar shetei goder espicha shelo lishol milafana v'levasho. You should fence yourself in, fence in your mouth to not ask from him and embarrass him. V'im, we'll read the whole thing and we'll go back and understand. V'im bal nefeshata, and if you are a bal nefesh, klomar im ata bal midos. Oh, that's a different interpretation. If you are a person who has midos, mikol malcham al tisav lamata mosav, do not lust for his delicacies. V'lechem kazavimu. Now this is going to be weird. How's he going to translate that? If it's a chacham, right? Achar she'eno maspik lecha, since it is not sufficient for you. Ella hishtado lifrosh mimenu. Rather, you should strive to separate from him. Is this something from the chacham who can't answer the questions you want?
Maybe the questions that can't be answered, or that he isn't can't answer.
You're saying separate from the questions. I mean, that would make sense if the food in the mashal is the chachma that you're dealing with, but mimenu is from him. I'm just trying to see if I can read it in a way that is, I'm not sure what that means. And what does that have to do with midos? Because it's not sufficient for you. Not sure what he means there. Let's go on and just see. I don't know if this onafarish, I don't think this onafarish is a completely separate interpretation. Or we'll explain, im bal nefesh, if you are a bal nefesh, davak im al tisav. That might be going back on do not desire. I thought that's what it was going back. Oh, okay, sorry. The first im bal nefesh means that if you are a bal midos, then you should not ask him questions to embarrass him. Okay, and then he's saying the al tisav l'mat mosav is a separate thing, which I still don't understand. Or you can explain that im bal nefesh is going on. Don't desire his delicacies. If you see in yourself that you are a bal nefesh yisera, that's not like the Shabbos nefesh yisera, someone who is has a higher level or prominent soul, and that chacham is not going to provide you with your needs and your learning. Al tisav, then do not desire. Ella parosh mimenu, separate from him. Interesting. I mean, I'm just.
Who is he talking about?
The audience is a little hard to understand. I mean, what I would say is like this: is if you're going to learn from a chacham, okay, and you see that he can't answer your questions, then there are two things that you should do. Is from a midos standpoint, you shouldn't embarrass him, and from your own learning standpoint, then this might not be the best person to learn from if he can't answer your questions. Like if you're asking questions that he can't answer, then maybe you should get yourself another rav. Yeah.
Maybe the inconsistent is that he is inconsistent at sustaining you in your learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that might be better. And by the way, I'm doing bad methodology here, which is that we did not read the Meiri on the derech nigla. So it's possible he spelled out translations of words that we're not really realizing. Yeah.
Didn't we read it yesterday?
I don't think we did. We did the Sadiq on Ravina Yonah. Yeah. So this is kind of reminds me of I've quoted this before, but what Rabbi Moskowitz when talked about the problem of when you're starting out and learning. How do you know which teacher to go to? Because if you knew how to learn, you'd be able to evaluate whether the teacher is good to learn from. What?
There's more Meiri.
Yeah, I know. We did that.
Oh
yeah. Yeah. We're doing. Let me just make this point. Okay. Moskowitz asked the question of like, how do you know who to learn from if you're just starting out and learning? Because like. Let's say it's some technical area, especially like Gemara, right? How do you know if your Gemara Rebbe is good if you've never learned Gemara before? So he said, find the Rav who consistently answers your questions to the satisfaction of your mind. And that's the best criteria you have going for you. Like that's all you can do. Because at the end of the day, you have to rely on your own mind, So it could be, the reason why I'm bringing this in is it could be that this Rav maybe does have a lot to offer you, but at the end of the day, this is a learning relationship, and if you're not getting your questions answered by him, then it's not going to advance your development in the best way.
Right. He's not saying like leave him in the dust. He's saying like he's just not a good match for you.
Yeah. This is not necessarily even a reflection on him, right. But it's a reflection on the matchup. Okay. Next, v'chein yesh lefarsho al malas harav. So too, you can say that you can explain it that this is about the Rav. Bin tavin. So this is a new interpretation, but still in the same framework. Bin tavin as asher lefanacha. Understand what is before you. Asharas kvodo. That is warning you about treating him with respect. Klomar afapi shehurshis. Even though he has permitted you to sit before him, he's bonin la'amod b'fanav l'fi kvodo b'yira uv'ema. You should contemplate, or you should, I don't know what the word to his bonin would be here. La'amod b'fanav. I assume this is like standing up for the Rav, right? Like he's leishiv and la'amod b'fanav. In accordance with his kavod in fear and awe. The samta sakim below achan, place a knife to your throat. Rotzlamor liskor pischei picha, guard the gates of your mouth. Rak kafi tzorach v'hahechreach, only in accordance with what is necessary. Ukfi mashu hursisa, and in accordance with what he permitted you. Akba meshu hursisa. Gador ba'atzmacha. Even what he permits you to do, you should guard yourself in. Like someone who recognizes the elevated status of another. The sakin kamogeder hanasa mina kotim. Sakin so he's taking sakin is not a knife. Sakin also means a fence of thorns. Okay, like in the I thought I was going to quote Mishlei. Inyan hasir masuchto. There's a pesukim Mishlei that says kimisuchas chadek. Like it's fenced in with thorns. So I guess saying that. Don't desire his delicacies. Efshar lafarsho al tira'e or tir'e, I'm not sure. Atzmacha kamachazik atzmacha karoi lios me'ochli shulchano. Do not see yourself or do not act like outwardly as someone who has seized upon himself to be one of the or is muhzak, as someone who can eat at his shulchan. To the point where you find yourself lusting after his delicacies. Meaning to okay, that's a good one. To understand the secrets of his chachma, right? The esoteric ideas. That is a protracted hope, meaning one that's not going to be fulfilled. Something that is not going to be forthcoming for you. Okay, or you can say milchama is to do war when you wage war with your Rabbi. When you go to wage war with your Rav, you should understand what's before you. You should wage war with him in a respectful manner. As they say in the beginning of Kiddushin, the master shouldn't teach like this. And one of the gedolim, I guess, in the talmidim said to him, "Shinana, sharp one." I think that's like a critical term. Lo tema le lavuchaki. Don't talk to your dad like that. V'chein hu v'samta sakin below echa. So to place a knife to your neck. Klomar shitasim geder b'dibur. Oh, so he's saying, I think he's going with this idea that sakin is a fence. Place a fence to your mouth, meaning your speech. That's the same idea as a siag l'Torah, making a fence for Torah. Don't desire his delicacies. Do not be tricked into taking light his kavod, into like making light of his kavod, because of the delicacies of his words. Ki musaro yiviehu lakach. His musar should bring you to such. Al takel b'chvodo ki al zeh anush te'anesh, because he'll be punished about this. Okay, what I want to do. Okay, this is like the Meiri. Like, sometimes the Meiri has like, it is definitely this, and this is how you should explain it. But sometimes it's like, it can be this or this or this or this. When he does that, I feel like the main thing is to get like, what's the main approach that he's saying here? And there's a lot that's going on. Yeah.
I think the main thing is there's ways that a talmid could slip up in common route.
Yeah.
And it's saying you got to be extremely careful.
Yeah. Right. And what does it stem from? Because I think we can connect this to the approaches that we've. Oh no, we can't. It doesn't connect to the approaches we did yesterday. What do you think is the cause of this? He's kind of like alluding to it a little bit.
Like comfort or familiarity.
Yeah. Because the thing is it's a relationship. There is a certain freedom in the relationship in terms of asking and answering, like it's not usher to, like, it's not like, okay, in other societies, then the relationship between a student and a teacher is one of extreme deference to the point where like, it's a purely like passive role where you don't question anything, you don't argue, you don't challenge, that's clearly not Judaism's thing. Like Judaism does permit you to engage in war with your Rebbe, right? However, the emotions don't distinguish between quantities, right? So like, it's very easy to go overboard, either in the way you ask or what you ask or the language, and he's saying that you have to like set up active fences to prevent yourself from straying into that territory. An amusing example of this is with both Rebbe and Rabbi Moskowitz. If you listen to the early TTL shiurim, with the guys who had Rebbe as a high school Rebbe or as a camp counselor, so the way that they talk to him is very, very different than the way that people talk to him now, or people talk to him in later years. My favorite example of this is like, if you ever have the opportunity to see Rabbi Fox, the principal of MYHS, I guess Rebbe is not going to be giving public shiur, but if you've ever seen him talk, in Rebbe shiur, it's like jaw dropping how overly familiar he is with the like I remember the big example of this was like Rebbe gave a svara. And I think Rabbi Fox is like, that's cute, and similarly, when Rabbi Moskowitz used to come to YBT, then all of the guys in YBT would relate to Rabbi Moskowitz as like one of the Gedolei YBT, which he is, but all of the people from Seattle relate to him as a high school Rebbe. So the standards were very, very different, of the two, and like it could come across as disrespectful. And I think the reason why I'm giving these two examples is because I'm not saying that Rabbi Fox was doing anything wrong. I'm saying that you should be cognizant of how people will view your Rebbe Talmud, interactions, because Kavod HaRav is not just for you; it's for the Rav, and it's for the standing of the Rav in that Chachma society. Another example of this is, and I was thinking about this once Rabbi Gober came to teach here. There's a cassette tape I have somewhere of everyone in shiur standing and Rabbi Gober in the corner, and everyone's yelling at him, screaming at the top of their lungs, and he's screaming at them at the top of his lungs. And it was just like this. And this is my first year in yeshiva, and I was like, wow, this is different, And like, because back then he wasn't Rabbi Gober, he was just like one of the older guys, No, it was a cassette tape somewhere, yeah, and maybe an MP3 CD, but I have to find it because it was like it was, I was like I noticed, even I noticed that maybe this is crossing the line, So it's the point I'm making is that it is a delicate balance that on the one hand, okay, let me approach this in another way to get an idea. Yeah.
He was giving shiur?
Yeah, he was giving a Gemara shiur. Yeah.
That was like in the middle.
No, not in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. But people wonder. This is a whole separate sugya. I'm just bringing it into this. People wonder why, Chazal, in the Masorah, there's a rich history of insulting, a volume Masorah of insulting each other in very sharp language. Famous examples are, the Ravid against the Rambam, or like Ariel was quoting to me a Ramban, where the Ramban says about the Ibn Ezra, like, Ibn Ezra departed from his own principles and is being misnabe b'sheker, is like saying false prophecies, so, or kim misnabe b'sheker, so the question is, like, why do the Baalei Masorah engage in such like strong language, so in some cases it's polemical. Like, the reason why the Ravid did this against the Rambam is he felt that the Rambam's aura of authority was in danger of warping the Masorah, or warping people's estimation of how to weigh him as a posek, because the Rambam didn't quote any other opinions, didn't quote any sources, and just laid down the law. And the Ravid Davka wanted to break his authority in the eyes of people. But the question is, like, in conversations, Ravid wasn't talking with the Rambam. So in conversations, why the Chachamim insult each other? So anyone have any shitas on that? Like, yeah, in the Gemara, in the Gemara, let's say in the Gemara, right? When they record, like,
I have a thought.
Yeah, sure.
But kind of similar to like the ones you were saying with
Yeah.
the Rambam. But like, if they're quoting something that they know is wrong,
Mhm.
that they know that they don't like,
Yeah,
then they know that if they're not like staunchly against it,
Yeah.
people are gonna read the Gemara and be like, oh, well, you kind of go either way.
right. So that's for other people. That's for polemics,
Yeah.
right? So and that's totally a correct answer. Like, you can definitely say that, right? But like, and maybe my premise is false, but I get the impression that, like, it seems like they were having these insults and stuff even when it wasn't for the sake of the audience,
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think it's because if you have a certain type of relationship, then that isn't a violation of kavod.
Okay, that definitely could be the case, right? That yeah, and that's what he's saying, that there is a certain permission that the Rav grants his talmidim to talk in certain ways. So I have a different theory though about why it, like, okay, whatever. This is my own theory. I don't have any evidence for this. Okay, that we talk about the milchamta shel Torah, which is that all of your energy is invested in all your energy is invested in seeking truth. Okay, and when I say all your energy, it's not just an intellectual thing; it's your whole psyche. Okay, and there's a danger that if you hold back too much, so then you're not going to be fully investing all your energy in that. And so there's going to be a certain thing where like you need to like let loose and fully like be able to say to your chavrusa, like, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard, like, and again, it has to be in a way that is conducive to learning. Like, if both of you are not on the same page, then that's going to be disruptive, right? If a person's going to be insulted by it, but like, when I remember Rebbe told me in my first year of yeshiva, he said, when it comes to learning, then politeness is nothing but superficial nonsense. That was the line. And again, he doesn't mean in terms of again, if both of you are on the same page, and he's not talking about, so in the actual pure act of learning, like, there's another Gemara that says when a Rav and a talmid sit to learn, they're like oivin or sonin zezes, like they're enemies, but when they leave, then they're like oavin, then they're like friends. So it means that you need to be able to unleash all of your psychological energy into the learning process and to defend your truth, again, with intellectual honesty and with humility to back down when you're wrong. So because you're letting loose all of these forces, there is a danger that you're going to breach kavod harav, and it's a delicate balance. If it's your chaver, that's one thing. I mean, kavod chaverecha should be also a thing. But like, I'm not giving a formula for how to make these calculations, but like there's a delicate balancing act of forces here. That like, you can't ignore one of the categories. Otherwise, if you make it if you're too deferential, you will not seek truth like you're supposed to, and that's the problem of it's ein habaishan lomid in disguise. Really it's baishanus, and you're not asking questions that you should ask, but it's disguised itself as kavod harav. And if you go all in on like the cutthroat attacks, you're going to be endangering your relationship with the Rav, and the societal impact of the societal esteem that the Rav is held in. So there's probably more to get here, but I think it's interesting. So yeah, okay, let's stop that, and then we'll do Q&A. And this is a question on that or a Q&A question? Okay, so let me stop this, and I will.